what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you're all doing well. If not, sending some love, some positive vibes your way. Today is kind of a follow-up video. I released a video, I don't know, about a week ago or so, talking about 3 epic champions who I think are better than most. Not just some legendaries, because there's a lot of crappy legendaries, but most legendaries inside the entire game. I'm not going to ruin that video, so if you want to see those 3, my favorite 3 epic champions in the game, I will link part 1, I guess, of this video. Wouldn't intend it to be a 2-part, series here, but might as well. I'm going to follow up with 5 more for you guys today. And truth be told, I actually made a list. I actually looked at all the epic champions in the game, and I thought to myself, which epic champions are legitimately better than the majority, so at least 50% of the legendaries in the game, and I came out with around 12, 13 epic champions. So this is the next 5 in the batch. I want to hear, and these are kind of like my next 5, I guess, faves personally, right? And of course, everything's personal opinion here in the on the channel. I'm going to show you how I built these champions, kind of talk about where you use these champions as well, masteries as well. So if you want to build them, unvault them, or maybe you want to, change your build, or just kind of thought-provoking stuff here on different ways maybe you could use these champs. So without further ado, again, my top 3 in the other video, and I know there's going to be a couple snubs because I read all your comments on the previous video. A lot of you guys like a lot of epics, and rightfully so. There's a lot of good epics in the game, but let's start with, in no particular order here, let's start with Ursula the Mourner. So why is Ursula the Mourner so freaking good? And you can see I kind of have her in a Perception, in an Immortal set as well. A few of these champions, they're not going to be in a 4-piece set, just kind of using the best gear that I have available, which is what we all do in this game, right? So Lance of Pentenance, her A1 attacks one enemy, 40% chance of increasing the target's turn meter by 10%, or decreasing. Increasing their turn meter would really suck as an A1 ability. You can't find that on any legendary, boys and girls.
But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail. In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother?
But I was kidding, for God's sakes. Doesn't anybody have a sense of humor?
But no, it's actually a 55% chance of decrease in target turn meter, not too bad on the A1. Wave of Grief is where things starting to get really, really good on this champion. 3-turn cooldown. She only needs about, what, 550 books? I mean, that's the downside of Ursula the Mourner, right? An AoE attack, 100% chance of placing decrease attack, also places increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. So we get the decrease and the increase attack, maximizing your team's damage while mitigating the enemy's team's damage. And then Requiem, this is one of my favorite abilities, guys. Revives all dead allies, 75% HP, turn meter at 50%. That's a really, really strong revival on a 5-turn cooldown. One of the strongest, if not the strongest AoE revive. It is the strongest AoE revival out of all epic champions in the game. Even compared to legendaries, this is an insanely good ability because also places a 60% increased defense and 25% strengthen on all allies for 3, count them, 3 turns. You can use this ability without reviving anybody. Also places a increased defense and strengthen is Q, that kind of like Arbiter's revival ability. You can just use it for the turn meter boost. Nobody has to be dead. So she's bringing increased defense and strengthen to the table on your team as a reliable source for 3 turns on a 5-turn, cooldown. That's why, again, Aura, speed and Doom Tower battles by 24%, great for Doom Tower. That's why we're definitely picking up lasting gifts on this champion. That's one thing that you definitely want to make sure that you have, because you really want to extend that, or have a chance at extending that strengthen big version, increased defense big version to a 4, to 4 turns. Master Hexer, because of the decrease attack. Also lasting gifts works obviously on her increased attack ability buff as well. And then we went with War Master as our tier 6 option. Here, let me move myself out of the way. There you go. So just getting a little bit of extra damage off of her A1. Her multipliers are actually really good for a support kind of reviver type champion on her A1 and her A2, which is an AoE attack as well. So for that reason, I have her here. Again, I mentioned Immortal, Perception. You want to build her tanky enough so that she can obviously stay alive to revive the rest of your team. So we have we're shooting for over 2,500 on the defense, over 40, 50k depending on where you're using her on the HP. I do have her built out with crit rate. It's not 100% necessary. You can go, if I was going to sacrifice one thing, it would probably be the crit rate. I take those gauntlets off and replace it with more HP or more defense if I have trouble with my gear thresholds, artifact thresholds, to actually keep this champion alive. We have some accuracy because of the turn meter on the A1 and the decreased attack on the A2. And we have speed, a lot of speed on this champion. I love to make my buffers. You're going to see on all these champions, I love to make my revivers, my support champions fast, right? So there it is, Ursula the Mourner. I'll show you really quickly the artifacts that I do have on her. Again, crit rate, as I mentioned, on the gauntlets. I have a shield on the chest, HP percentage.
A shield on the chest, HP percentage.
I know it's underhanded, but that's the way I throw.
Actually, shield, ignore that. I have HP percentage on the chest, and then I have speed on the boots, and then we're just kind of going for, again, a speed, especially on the, as substats, excuse me, on the other artifacts that we have here. Okay, so next up is going to be, she used to be kind of a specialist. She still is a specialist when we're talking about like control champions in the game, but really she is just one of the most special champions inside the game, including Legendaries, and that is Allure. And you can see she's one of the only champions I have on my account that I actually built 2 of. She's that good that justifies building 2 of these champions because double control. What else is better, right?
Don't even care.
So why is Allure so good? On her A1, Psychic Whip attacks 3 times at random, decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. The cool thing about Allure, guys, is that you do not have to worry about much when you're building this champion. You don't have to book her. You're really only using her, or I should say the main reason you're using her is for that A1. Her A2 can have some utility as well, which we'll talk about in a moment, but really, don't forget about books. You can use Allure at level 50, guys. I mean, she's that good. And this ability is really what you're after here when we talk about how powerful Allure can be against Fire Knight, Scarab King, Dark Fae especially, but even Ice Golem, anywhere that you want to reduce the boss's turn meter, right? Temptation, or A2, attacks all enemies 2 times. Each has a chance at placing decreased defense and a sleep on targets under decreased defense. Sleep is awesome on this champion. I know sleep is like, you know, one of the most underwhelming CC debuffs in the game, but it's great on her because it makes her a great companion to Seer when Seer has the Opportunist Mastery where she's getting 12% extra damage on targets with sleep debuffs. So they can make a nice kind of synergy, especially on Fire Knight teams, to help you kind of bleed through those waves, get extra damage out of Seer, make sure she one-shots everybody. Hellish Blaze,
Hellish Blaze.
Hellish Blaze attacks 1 enemy. A chance of inflicting a critical hit, extra 30%, and ignore 50% of the target's defense. I usually turn this ability off. It sounds like it should deal a ton of damage, and it really doesn't. The multipliers are not that strong on this ability, but really, who cares? We're really all about her A1. Masteries, not even necessary on this champion. Nice to have, but, you know, you can use her without masteries. I actually used her without masteries all the way up until I prepared for this video because I just put them on her right before this video. We did go down the support tree, as you guys can see, and then we went and ended with tier 6 Giant Slayer, getting extra damage out of that triple hitter on the A1, right? So that can help with the damage as well as the control out of her A1. As you can see from this build, guys, went all out speed, baby. 252. So I'm focused on accuracy and crit rate first, or crit rate and accuracy. It doesn't matter the order. Those are the most important things on Allure. We need her be getting critical hits on that A1 every single time to reduce that turn meter. And good time to mention, Affinity Breaker artifact set. Not an artifact set that people talk about that often, right? We probably never even mentioned it here on the channel, except for when it was released to the game. Actually really good on Allure. Can help her against the Scarab King where she can land critical hits on what would have been a weak hit, right? So Affinity Breaker, remember that when we're talking about Allure as it pertains to the Scarab King especially, or any Force Affinity monster or boss that you're attacking. Crit rate, accuracy, speed. It's all you need to know about on Allure. Having your accuracy high is going to be absolutely paramount to getting all that value out of the A1. You can see here we have crit rate on the gauntlets. We have accuracy on the chest. Don't be afraid to go accuracy on the chest if you can keep her alive. With me, the way I use Allure, She's not dying because she's controlling the enemy. The enemy never gets a turn in the teams that I use her on, so I'm not sweating the HP and defense as much as I would on other champions. So I want accuracy on the chest for that reason, and accuracy on the banner as well. Listen, you might have a team where you do need her to be a little bit more hardy to get through those waves. You might not have a seer team like I do, so don't be afraid to go HP percentage or defense percentage on the chest. Only downside is her HP and her defense scale very, very poorly, 793 and 14k respectively there. So we definitely want to prioritize getting flat stats of HP or defense on the accessories. You know, flat stats are really nice when we talk about champions that have very, very low base stats, right? In terms of accessory choices. So that is Allure. Love Allure. Can you tell? I love Allure. Let's go back to another Void champion. We talked about the best AoE reviver inside all the epics and maybe, you know, in the conversation inside the entire game with Ursula the Mourner. Now let's talk about Godseeker Aniri. Godseeker! She's amazing. I love me some Godseeker Aniri. Congratulations if you have these Void champions. Good news is the other two champions are not Void, so we're not going to overdo it here with the Voids. A little heal on the A1. Quest for Meaning, what a great ability. 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, heals all allies by 15% of their max HP, then decreases the duration of all buffs on all enemies by 1 turn, so a little bit of a buff strip going on here. I love that ability. And then increase the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. Man, this is a really, really good ability. We got a heal, we got an attack, we got a remove buffs or decrease duration of buffs on enemies, increase on allies. You love it. And then Rise of Glory, what a unique revival ability. Revives a dead ally 50% HP, turn meter 50%, and resets the cooldowns of all of their skills. Now that's really, really cool. We have a little built-in seal of magic a la Kymar. Not really, but kind of cool, right? In the revival ability on the 4-turn cooldown. There's a really strong single target cooldown because of that reset. Guardian Angel passive. She's got another revival on her passive. This is what really pushes her over the top, in my opinion, making her deserving to be on this list. Increase the amount of healing all allies receive by 10%. Sometimes that's overlooked as a passive effect, but that's really powerful in its own right. Increases all heals. You put her with, you know, a really good healer on the same team, that can really add up that extra boost. It doesn't really necessarily show up on the stat sheet, right? On the box score. Active effect, if an ally is about to get killed by a fatal hit, it puts Revive on Death on them, preempting the damage taken. So an automatic break in case of emergency, fail-safe revival built on a 4-turn cooldown on a passive. Very, very strong. I love Godseeker Aniri, and I built her in an all-out reviver build. This is my favorite kind of reviver build in the game. Now, you can definitely go on the offense tree and land on War Master. I think that would be the more popular selection, probably, for Godseeker Aniri. But if you want to make her an all-out support beast, go down defense, pick up some defense or resist or whatever, end with Retribution, end with Cycle of Revenge. But more importantly, go ahead and pick up, I do want to pick up Merciful Aid, and I wanted the accuracy there to make sure I'm decreasing the duration of all buffs, because I use her really heavily in Hydra Clan Boss, but nothing wrong going Lay on Hands and getting extra heal out of that A2 as well. Just want to note that. But Timely Intervention, man, this is a really good tier 6 mastery choice for your revivers especially. Increase this champion's turn meter by 20% or your healers whenever an ally hero drops below 25% HP, helping her go faster, reduce the cooldown of her revival or her passive in this case as well. So really, really valuable mastery on Godseeker Aniri. Next up is going to be, wait, did I show you her? I didn't even show you her artifacts. Come on, man. Relentless. You guys know I'm a big fan of putting, you know, the best champions in the game in Relentless gear. You know, it's really simple. We get more heals, we get more increased durations, decreased durations on the A2. We get to reduce cooldown again of her revival ability and her passive as well. So I want her taking as many turns as possible. We went, you can see total stats here, 56k, 3600. She's beefy. Ow. She's got a, no offense, Godseeker, love you. But she's got a lot of sustainability, right? We want to keep her alive. 227, where she's fast, and then 298 on the accuracy, okay? So prioritizing defense, HP, speed, you know, accuracy on this champ. She's a little bit more tricky to build because you do not need that accuracy on that A2 and only that A2, which feels a little weird. So we have HP, I believe, percentage on the gauntlets. We do. We have defense on the chest. We have speed on the boots, And then again, looking for speed, looking for a little bit of accuracy where we can find it on the substats on this, or the rest of this Relentless gear. In terms of the accessories on this champion, we decided to go with, let me buy time, we can pull it up. We went accuracy on the banner. Again, I really value that A2 decreased buff duration, HP on the amulet, and HP on the ring. So that is Godseeker Aniri in her Relentless gear. Next up is going to be, it's going to be 2 Force Affinity champions. Let's start with Mausoleum Mage. Mausoleum Mage is so freaking good, man. This dude is nasty. He's nasty. He's an old school champion. He is what? Allure and Mausoleum Mage are the only legacy, like original OG champions on this list today. And Mausoleum Mage, I just can't say enough good stuff about this dude, man. First off, he's got a decreased speed big version on his A1, 50% land rate. That's really, really good. I love that Mausoleum Mage can come in against a boss and slap that decreased speed down on them. To me, it's often an overlooked part of his kit, right? Now, unfortunately, this is the only reason you have to build him with accuracy, but I really want to land that decreased speed personally. It's just such a powerful debuff to have on your team. Might of Undeath, his A2 is great, man. Increased crit rate, increased defense, 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, and then you get block debuffs on top of that for 1 turn. Okay, that's a really, really strong ability, especially for an epic, but even for a legendary. And then it just keeps getting better. Look at his A3, a 4-turn cooldown. I mean, a champion that's bringing increased defense, block debuffs, increased crit rate, which is actually nice to have because, you know, some of you slackers like me and a couple champions, or maybe a little bit more than a couple, you might have that 85, that 95% crit rate. It helps you out there, right? It makes up for your foolish mistakes. Winds of Purging, his A3. It's a cleanse, a full cleanse on a 4-turn cooldown. A heal by 10% of this champion's max HP. You want to build him with a lot of HP, get a nice girthy heal out of this champion. And then heals each ally by a further 10% if 1 or more debuffs are removed from that ally. And then fills each ally's turn meter by 15% if 2 or more debuffs are removed from that ally. Man, a great cleanse and heal, and maybe even turn meter fill even more heal on this ability, next to Might of Undeath as well, next to decreased speed on his A1. I just really, really love this dude. We went and picked up those healing masteries. We should actually go with, I kind of want to go with Lay on Hands instead, so ignore the Shield Bearer. I have Shield Bearer because he's in a shield set, but definitely go Lay on Hands. All right, we went with War Master for extra damage out of this champion as well. I'll move out of the way, you guys can see. And yeah, we're gonna make that change. But other than that, good mastery choice. We want to pick up, again, lasting gifts on Mausoleum Mage. And then we went with, well, Shield Set. 30% ally shield for 3 turns at the start of each turn. Now, he's a perfect companion champion to Seer, another one. You know, we spoke about the opportunist synergy with Allure earlier. Mausoleum Mage with shield is great because he can get all those 5 shields up and help activate that Karma Burn ability on Seer. That's why I had him originally in a shield set, and then I just kind of kept him in it, even though I no longer use him on the same team as Seer, because he needs a lot of HP anyway to get value out of that heal. So I built him with a lot of HP, get extra value out of the shield, might as well, right? I built him fast. I want more cleanses. I want more buffs, man. This guy does a lot. I want him to do more of it, right? And then we went a little bit of accuracy again for that decreased speed, 256. And again, just sustainability, a little bit of defense, a lot of speed. So a little bit easier to build. I love a shield set on this champion, even if you're not using him to activate Seer. You know, if you're having trouble in progression, especially depending on, you know, where you are in this game, I think that a shield set on a guy like Mausoleum Mage will really help you guys out a lot. So we went with probably HP everywhere, HP percentage on the gauntlets, HP percentage on the chest. We went with maybe accuracy, I think, maybe. There's a little weird lag whenever I go to click on the banner. Accuracy on the banner, HP and HP. So looking again for speed and HP as substats on all these artifacts. Some of you guys comment, like, why not use Divine Speed, Ash, on champions like Mausoleum Mage? It happens every video, right? Very simple. Because I have some of my best Divine Speed here on other champions that I use a little bit more than Mausoleum Mage, right? So nothing wrong with the speed set as well. Last but not least is going to be Geomancer. So Geomancer again, and Geomancer, Mausoleum Mage, Allure, Ursula, Godseeker, they're all better. For me, kind of no-brainer, they're better than half the Legendaries, at least in this game. Like, these are legendary champions in my mind. What about you guys? An AoE attack would decrease accuracy on his A1, Really solid to get that 40% big version of decreased accuracy. On his A2, removes all buffs from a target enemy, then attacks them, steals all buffs instead if they're under HP burn, resets the cooldown of the A3 by 2 turns if the target is killed by the skill while under HP burn placed by this champion. Keep in mind with Geomancer, I think a lot of people fail to recognize this, that it's very important that he's the one that's placing the HP burn to get the full value out of this champion. On the A3, Quicksand Grasp fully depletes target's turn meter, fills this champion's turn meter by the amount the target loses. Great ability, similar to like the A2 ability of Maneater. There we go. 100% chance of placing an HP burn and the big version of Weaken on the target for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, this is where it's really at, the Stone Guard passive, right? Decrease the damage all allies receive by 15% and deflects that damage onto each enemy under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion. Again, placed by this champion is very key, right? A lot of players pair him with a bunch of other burners and you're not activating Stone Guard enough. You know, you're not getting that extra damage reflected back. Not to mention the Quicksand Grasp as well. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. Whenever this champion is attacked, deflects 30% of the damage instead. That's like a built-in Giant Slayer on this champion. It's a ton of extra damage. That's why you see him on all the best teams of the week on half of these, you know, Doom Tower bosses, Hydra, etc. You see him everywhere. This guy is one of the most used champions inside the entire game. When deflecting damage on each enemy hit, has a 30% chance of dealing additional damage with 30% of the target's max HP. Again, that is that built-in Giant Slayer. For that reason, we switched him from having Giant Slayer Mastery. They've tweaked this guy so many times. Right now, the meta, the best way to build him to maximize damage potential out of that passive is with War Master. So make sure you pick up War Master as your tier 6 option. And again, you guys can see I went down, kind of grabbed Sniper and Master Hexer down the support tree as well. I have him in, you know, Perception, Speed, Cruel. Just trying to get his stats as good as I can. No special 4-piece set on him either. 42k, 2100, 201 on the speed, 107, 159, getting a little bit of damage, especially on that A1 against the Hydra heads. And then 332 accuracy is going to be important on this champion as well. And yeah, let's see where I went with the artifacts here. Crit rate on the gauntlets. We have HP percentage on the chest and speed on the boots. Make sure you can always build these champions with some survivability in mind. Never be afraid, even on an attack or a damage dealer, especially one like Geo, where it's coming mostly off of that, depending on where you are, but most of it's going to be off of that passive. Don't be afraid to build them tanky, you know? Attack on the banner. This is kind of an interesting one. No idea why I have this banner on this champion. I'd rather have him, I mean, I like the trip roll of attack, but I'd rather have better speed as a substat there. And I'd probably go for a little bit more HP to build him a little bit tankier rather than optimize attack. So do as I say, not as I do. And then we have crit damage on the amulet. And then we have attack with a trip roll of defense there on the blood shield ring as well. So that is the build for Geo. I just want to make one other note here, guys. Something I always look out for on any champion in the game is having a passive that decreases the damage all allies receive by whatever the percentage is. It's just such a rare ability. These damage mitigators, super powerful to have on your team. You know, usually it's a skill that's only reserved for some of the best legendaries in the game or the best kind of tanks in the game. For example, the first one that comes to mind obviously is Duchess. Decreases the damage allies receive by AoE attacks by 25%, 15 from bosses. Another one is actually going to be an underrated tank in my opinion, and that is where Arya Norog. So Norog has decreased the damage taken by allies that are under 1 or more buff by 15%, decreases damage taken by all allies that are under no active buffs by 25%. It's a really, really powerful passive, and Geo has that damage mitigation as well. So there you have it, guys. 5 more champions who are better, epic champions who are better than most legendaries in the game. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.